I usually don't do a drawing before a painting, but when I have a ambitious idea or I'm not sure really where I'm going to go, I start with a drawing. This is a fountain pen drawing that I did in a sketchbook and just added paper into the sketchbook. I like using multiple colored fountain pens, and so bringing the drawing to where I'm painting. That's a homemade box that I put together myself, and I'm starting with the sort of central portion of the painting, and that's me showing my Old Holland paints. I love to use Old Holland paint. Um, you notice that the panel that I'm working on fits that box perfectly. It's makes it very convenient to start a painting like that. The whole thing is very portable. Uh, I started with a little drawing in Terra Vert and then just start laying in the colors very directly for where I want to go. When you do these kind of panoramas, it's good if you have or it's easy if you've got like sort of a fulcrum of measurement. So it started focusing in on this area and, take it pretty far so that I really know where I'm going. Back to the drawing, spending more time on this central section so that my later portions where I'm adding here have something I have something to measure against, something to work with. Another day cleaning the turpentine. There's some parts in these time lapses where I missed a few days, but it's a pretty long process, and so I'm just working over a green-gray ground. You can see that tone brown sort of helps, sort of eases the process along. And I'm adding another piece here. Every day adding a few more pieces. Look like I skipped a few days in there. Different point of view. I really like to look down in my paintings, and that chair I'm painting right there is sort of off to the lower right of the picture where it's a chair right in front of me, working on a fireplace, unifying the parts together. This kind of painting allows me to work without boundaries to my composition, so that I can just expand the image. And that's my chair in the lower portion of the image that you can see, and that's actually me, that sort of blue shape in the very bottom right there. Now I'm working on a lamp on the right, and that sort of gray figure on the right is a sculpture that my mother did that I like to add to the painting. Adding another panel, I have to clip it on with these little clips, and I spend a lot of time trying to choose what shape I'm going to make the canvas. The panel, even though I had a pretty detailed drawing, I never stick to any plan and let the painting evolve over time, so that it can be so that it's not an execution of a plan; it's an exploration of a process. Here I had so many panels, I needed to cut another piece of wood so that I could clip them all together and it would hold together. The whole thing becomes rather flimsy if I'm just sort of clipping them to each other and there's no backing panel. Getting into some more detail on the right side of the painting. This kind of painting, it's I'm holding up that piece because I'm being blinded by the light behind it. I couldn't see the painting. This kind of painting, you really need to focus in on specific areas rather than work the whole thing. I'm sort of taught to work the whole thing all the time, and this I'm sort of working in parts. Adding more panels to it. Got too big for that. My homemade box, setting the table so that I could have something clear to paint on the table. I'm painting on the table, the plates and all the things. Sort of a set table, sort of inviting the viewer to sit down and enter the painting. There, this is a table I inherited from my mother and father. Beautiful wood table that some 70s design. Same with those chairs. And of course, the weather changes outside, but I'm now, looking at the landscape a little bit outside, trying to get the light going in there. Truthfully, I love to paint, so I get to get all the objects that I love to put in. We've got these beautiful plants that my wife takes care of. Getting the grain on the floor, and you can see the light changes in the room, and so the exposure gets kind of strange in the video. I forget how long this process took, but it overall took a couple of months in the summer, just working on that it became too ungainly, so I took it apart and just started working on parts of it, put it on a different easel so it could be a little bit more stable if things start flopping around a lot. If you don't have a solid, you don't have it set up right. I spent a lot of time that's not shown in the video of just setting up the painting, moving the easel around, cutting the backing boards, positioning my boxes and poquet box just exactly right so that I can see what I'm painting and see my painting at the same time. Another shot here, a different day, moving to what was really the original part of the painting over here, which is needs to be reworked. You can see it's less clearly painted than the right side of the painting, which had a lot more detail in it. And that light above the countertop, I added that later. I noticed that light was kind of cool, and it kind of looks more beautiful later in the day when the sun is setting. You can see that light, cleaning the turpentine there again. This kind of painting, you watch the light change with time. I'm adding to the left section here. I'm spending a lot of time clipping that in, laying in a quick drawing with, looks like a little ultramarine blue there. And then it gets easier to paint on these paintings the longer you go because you sort of know where you're at. I've got the right side not done, but really well established, so the left side just sort of works more easily off the right side. I added a few more panels after this, which you'll see coming up. That sort of abstract blue and white piece right there, which you can see is actually my wife's abstract painting, Susan Clark, and I loved doing a little painting of her painting. That's my guitar on the left there hanging on the wall, and the light above it, which you can't really quite see. I added a panel there, which I think it was moving too fast for you to actually see me adding the panel. Looking into the closet there and just really enjoying the process. And you see the area of ceiling above the light there. I just love painting the broad passages of color on empty areas. That ceiling fan, I spent a lot of time on the ceiling fan and looking up to the box ceiling there, working on the lamp again, and you can see I'm at a kind of really bizarre angle to the painting itself. I'm looking at it at an acute angle. Seeing it that way kind of was enabled me to see what I'm painting a painting of, but also sort of compresses the image from my own point of view so that I can see the whole thing in a smaller area. That's my daughter going through the kitchen there, and I believe I added her. Yeah, there she is, right there. I just see kind of a dark blue shape right in there, sort of walking through the image. Get the figure in there. I sort of like the idea of the space being inhabited, but the figure not necessarily being the dominant force. I added that little triangular piece in the sort of lower left to complete the hall there. And I took a panel out to focus in here because I felt like the fireplace and that plant really needed a lot of work, so I just took it out and just worked on that part individually for a little bit of time. Put it together, it's kind of a big process, work on the whole image again. You can see it's kind of flopping around. The panel's a little loose there because it's not all glued down yet. And you've got to hold it down sometimes with my hand to just, you can see my daughter pretty clearly, her blue shape for her blue sweater there. Working on the ceiling. The more you do, the more you see in this painting. And now these are all the individual panels taken apart. And I find them kind of interesting in and of themselves. Little puzzle pieces that form the image. It's kind of mimics the process of looking because you never see a whole space at one time. Your eye is constantly moving around, seeing parts, and your brain sort of puts it together. The process of making the painting really just sort of mimics that process of actually looking. Your eye is moving through a space as you look at a space, and moving through a space as you paint it. It's never sort of still like in a whole photograph. The painting's rather large. It's about 73 inches across.